Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this, your Libra August 2023 reading and forecast. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James, clairvoyant, and it's great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Great to see the subscribers in particular. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much for having me in your home, and I appreciate your company, and I really look forward to seeing you each month. Truly I do. Now, I've done a number of one-on-one clairvoyant readings for Librans from different parts of the world over FaceTime and Skype over the course of the last month, and if you might be interested in seeing what's involved, just check out the information that's in the description box below. I've also done, over FaceTime and Skype, a number of healings. Spiritual gift of healing for people from different parts of the world as well. Now, healings are free, and check out the information that's in the description. But now, let's get things underway for you. Now, as you know, don't you, subscribers, we don't have any video advertisements breaking their way into this content, and so you get to enjoy the experience of the reading without interruption. And you also know that we only need 5 cards, because the 5 that we choose, they come alive, don't they? And they speak to us, they tell us what's going to be happening. They interact with one another and sort out the story as to what's going on for you in this month of August. Now, this is a deck that is hand-painted, and it is... the scenery of it is really Renaissance Italy, I suppose, and there's a lot of colour. So Renaissance Italy, probably something around the year 1600, something like that. You will find the imagery on it fantastic, and I might use a pen to point out some of the more interesting features, at least as they jump up to me anyway. You might see more in them than I do. But let's grab them now and see what there is for you. There is the 4 of Wands here, my dear friend, is the King of Swords. Good. This is the 3 of Swords. A lot of mental activity going on. There's Death. Oh, that's an interesting Death card, isn't it? What might there be here? Let's have a look. And finally, there is the Empress. Hello, Empress. Always good to see you. Now, why don't you and you come over here. We will look at the paintings together. Look at what they have to say. Watch them speak, and I'll do the reading for you. Right, well, let's have a look at the first card that you drew, which is this 4 of Wands. And let's have a quick look at the art as well, shall we? Now, here are 4 men who seem to be getting together in some sort of a pact. They're joining hands. Now, it's a sort of, I get the feeling that they're medieval type of people, these people here. This man in blue is probably from a seaside area. This man with the darker skin is from a place with a much hotter climate. This man with fair skin and freckles is obviously from a northern country, whereas this guy in the white, that's a combination of all of these colours together. It's a combination of all of them together. And they each have wands, and on the top here, with these red ribbons around it, there is what would you call that, a garland of the produce of the different areas. I guess the palm trees, the palms are from this guy. There's also shamrocks that are there. There's wheat and laurel and different things going on. But a happy occasion, you would say, and why not? Because it is Venus, the lesser benefic, which is, well, interestingly, I think in this position here and with Death underneath it, I think it's Venus coming into the 3rd decan of Aries, which is the 10th to the 19th of April. Now, Venus on the astrology wheel has 2 signs that it is the CEO of. I hesitate to say ruler of a constellation, because a planet can't really rule a constellation, but we'll say it's the CEO of both of Taurus and of Libra. And because we have now Taurus is an earth sign, Libra is an air sign, and because we have this thing up in the air here, I'm going to assign Venus to the air sign of Libra, and she comes across 180 degrees opposite to come into Aries, where she is in detriment. That is where she's not able to express her normal sense of relationship and joy of beauty, love, you might think. Now, Aries is ruled by Mars. Aries is a masculine sign. And how do Venus and Mars get on together? Well, do they get on well? Ordinarily not, but Venus has two sides to her. She is both the evening star, isn't she, where she sets after the sun, and she is also the morning star, where she appears before the sun arises. And as the morning star, she is almost like the warrior queen, as I see it in astrological terms. And so I think here Mars and Venus get on well together. So there is harmony here, because in some respects there is a sort of a opposites attracting one another, and I think that you might find that you are attracted to a person or to things that you weren't attracted to before. You might look twice at somebody or something. You might say to yourself, oh, look, I haven't bothered trying this thing before because it's never held much interest for me. But now you do give it a go and you go, do you know what? I think I really do enjoy it here. There's also a great sense of completion around here and the possibility of new beginnings. This really does speak to you of a green light to success. It's the foundation, the first stage to completing things. Maybe you're thinking of setting up a new home, or beautifying or fixing up your home or your garden area, you know. Venus, the symbol of beauty and love, combines with Aries, which is the principle of new beginnings, you see. Now your heart pushes forth and seeks the development of the beautiful in new directions. But before the new can arise, the old must be complete, and the conflict between opposites must be resolved in a way which will further you on the way towards your highest goal. Now, tension in relationships can work positively where the individuality of each person is recognized and respected, and this makes it possible for you to support one another in moving forward. Certainly something beautiful is making its way into your relationships. You may notice it first as established conditions are called into question and discussed openly. Now, as I say, clarifying the old is necessary for a new oneness, a new beginning. And are you prepared to accept your partner? It doesn't have to be a partner, it could be a social friend or someone in the workplace. Are you prepared to accept them in spite of your differences? And what areas are in urgent need of clarification or resolution? If there is some tension between you and somebody else, now is a good time to clarify and resolve the interaction and complete the old. And say this to yourself now: completing the old frees me for the new. Well, let's go down that column and see what there is. There was a major arcana, and it is death. This is an interesting picture of death. Let's have a close look at it, shall we? Well, here it is, a skeleton, and look, the way it's dancing like that. Do you know that the Hindu god Shiva, the destroyer and the renewer, is often seen dancing and in this pose? And I see a great similarity to the god Shiva here. Now, this personification of death is holding a scythe, and the scythe is using a human backbone here. There's a raven flying around which shows us, or a crow, which shows us that there is some decomposition about. But look at this beautiful blue. Is that water? Maybe that's water that's underneath there, or ground anyway. There's a a heap of hands stretching up, which is showing renewal, and that is assisted by the green plants that you can see popping up. So there's newness, there's regeneration coming through here. Now what these three heads are, I don't know. If I were to take a guess, I would say that it might be the artist and, well, at least his wife and possibly a child. Now this is Mars ruling Scorpio here. And here, the energy of Mars, and we saw Mars here as well, a lot of energy around for you this month. Mars here is in its best form, and it's pushing, it's prodding, it's giving the necessary force to provoke change. There is here, I call death the child of the great transformers, the lord of the gate of death. The feeling of, well, we've all heard the phrase death and resurrection, but really there are things moving away so that the sun can shine on the earth and new things can grow again. So there is a transformation. You see, Scorpio itself is a very transformative sign. It has three forms, did you know? It has the hard form. It's the fixed sign of water. It has the hard form, which is the Scorpio, which is the scorpion, which might be like ice. Then it has another form, which is a snake that's fluid, like water. And then in its final form, it is the eagle, up in the air. So you see that transformation of Scorpio that's here. And I see you becoming free of things which have been holding you back. And there's external changes going on around you, which are giving you that freedom. And I think also that you will be letting go of emotional attachments that no longer serve you. You are entitled to be self-centered in this respect. There is, in effect, the end of an era or a cycle coming about here. I do really think that old relationships are demanding to be disintegrated. This process can be bound together with painful experiences, and I just happen to be looking at this card here. I'll just have to wait to see what it says in a second. But because you have drawn this card here, with respect to those disintegrating relationships, this is indicating that you are ready for it now. The act of letting go, difficult as it may be, is actually going to free you. Death really shows two faces, doesn't it? One destroying and tearing down, and the other freeing you from old bonds which have been preventing life, which now start to come up and enrich you. Now, which of these aspects will predominate depends on your attitude, because any desire to hold on to or to cling to old bonds will cause their death to appear that much more agonizing. I also get the sense here that there could well be you testing your limits, pushing yourself to see how far you can go, how good you can be. Improving, pushing yourself forward is what's getting there. Now, this is also about you facing your fear when it comes to trying to improve yourself and bring about your improvement over time. Do you know, we all need to grow and learn by pushing ourselves. But something in your life is dying, dissolving, or disintegrating, whether it be a structure you have created, a pattern, a habit, or a way of thinking about yourself or the world. And this is necessary for new beginnings and transformation in your life. So this is a period, I think, of some transformation for you, and you may have to face your fears. But look, don't be afraid, because the darkest hour is just before the dawn, isn't it? And in order to grow and abandon the old, death is your protection against stagnation, because you are forced to leave behind what you have outgrown. And I think that you are now ready to make the necessary changes in your life. Accept any minor pain that may come with the loss of the old. And maybe ask yourself, to what outdated relationships or situations are you clinging? And say this to yourself: I let go of people and situations with ease, compassion, and dignity. Every ending heralds the new beginning. I now say yes to death and yes to myself. And maybe there is a little bit of a emotional sadness about some of the things that are moving as you move on from things, or you get rid of things. Maybe it's also about house cleaning as well. You understand that, and throwing things out. Spring cleaning, as it were. And what do we see here? We see, oh look, this is a story of I'm pretty sure that this is a story of the prodigal son that's captured in one of the Christian New Testament books. Pretty sure it's the Gospel according to Luke, chapter 15, starting at about verse 11, for those of you who are of a mind to read Bibles. I think that story is contained in there. Anyway, at the top here, we have a mother and a father. Now, in that story, it was just a father, but here we have a mother, a father, a child, and another child there, and this child is leaving home. The parents have given him... Now, these are three fools from old... that's from a tarot of Marseille, Visconti Sforza, a tarot of Mantegna. And underneath this tarot of Mantegna, there's the peace symbol that the hippies would be aware of from the 60s and the anti-war movement in Vietnam. This guy has a bag full of money, and in here he has a prostitute, because the story had it that the father gave the young man his inheritance up front, rather than waiting for him to die, and he took off. And he said, I've got lots of money and I'm involved in drinking and girls, in this case paying the girls, the prostitutes. And look, I don't mean to say anything wrong against call girls or prostitutes, and certainly not against, in fact, in my private practice, I see a lot of call girls. The people have got to make a living. And if you were in those days, for example, if you were without a family, or you were widowed, or you had a husband who was killed in war, how did you support yourself? You've got to do what you need to do to survive. And that's the same as the case today. You need to do what you need to do to survive. So pass no judgment on prostitution or call girls at all. But that's where his money went. So he spent it on drinking and call girls. Now, of course, that story, those New Testament books, they're all Jewish books, although the Christians have adopted them these days, of course. And in those days, so he was then left to try and make a living by feeding pigs acorns, you see. Now, that was a bad look in the old days in the Jewish communities, because pigs were reviled, and so he had really sunk to the bottom of the barrel. But the story is that he came back, and it's an allegory. It's a story which shows that it doesn't matter if you have gone away from your spiritual life or God. You are always the child of God, and you belong to God forever, and you are welcome back anytime in this life or the next. But looking at the astrology of this is Saturn in the second decan of Libra, which is about the 3rd to the 12th of October. Look, the thing is that things aren't, there's some sorrow around here, but it's not too bad, because Saturn, which is that restrictive, heavy, slow planet, which actually guides you and brings you back to your soul path, that soul contract that you made when you came here, which can often be a shame, because you'd rather be out drinking and having fun than maybe living the life that you had come here to live. Well, Saturn is actually exalted in Libra, so Venus which as we saw is the CEO of Libra, actually treats Saturn as an honored guest, and Saturn quiets right down. And so the ordinary feeling of limitation or restriction, formality that you might get from Saturn, I think that's dialed back a bit here. So what could be a real problem with things like grief or heartbreak or emotional pain or mental anguish actually aren't as strong as they might ordinarily be. Now, there could be some doubts, there could be some lack of clarity. There could also be here, I do see, because with this number 3, incidentally, I also have an association with Saturn in the number 3 as well. And the number 3 also gives me the idea of a woman's womb, which can take a seed and then grow within it a child to produce another person. So the 3, there can be tensions in a 3-sided relationship. Now, I'm not saying that's with a child, but there could be tensions in a 3-sided relationship. In fact, there could be this tension-loaded 3-sided relationship, and maybe you are attempting in some way to explode or destroy it. And that situation usually demands clear decisions. And that's where Saturn is going to help you, because any attempt to avoid making them will cause you sorrow and worry. Now, there is an outside chance here that there could be some sorrow. This is part of moving on, about moving things on. There could be some sorrow over past hurts or losses or separations that are here. But this card is calling you to make clear, straightforward decisions. And only in this way can the lost balance, which is that Libra aspect, be regained. I guess what decisions are difficult for you to make? Remember, every problem contains within it its own solution. Sometimes when we're moving on, the sense of regret comes up when we're moving on from people or things. But look, despite what you may believe, you can disappoint people and still be good enough. You can make mistakes and still be capable and talented. You can let people down and still be worthwhile and deserving of love. You see, everybody has disappointed someone they care about. Everybody messes up, lets people down, makes mistakes, not because we are inadequate or fundamentally inept, but because we are imperfect and fundamentally human. And expecting anything different is just setting yourself up for failure, because nobody is perfect. And then we might go quickly to this King of Swords here, and let's have a look at the King of Swords, looking very kingly, sitting there where he is, doesn't he? Let's have a look. Where are you, my dear fellow? That's the spirit. Well, here we have a young blonde man who is completely clad in armor, and he's sitting on a hexagonal throne. Hexagonal means 6-sided. Hexagrams are very big in tarot. They, for me anyway, they refer to the number 6 refers to Christ consciousness, to Krishna consciousness, to Vishnu consciousness, even the consciousness of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he was receiving the Quran from the Archangel Jibreel, or Gabriel, as we call him in English. And on this, I'm just looking here, that looks like a swastika. Now, the Germans in World War II, of course, wrecked the brand of the swastika, but the swastika has been used for thousands of years, particularly in Hinduism, in Jainism, to show, swastika comes from a Sanskrit word, which is Indian, which means ancient Indian, almost like theological Indian, which means good fortune or conducive to good fortune. That's really what it means there. And in fact, the shape of it, as I understand it, comes about from tracking the the image of the pole star in the northern hemisphere over the course of a year. That's where it came from. It's been used for thousands and thousands of years to mean good fortune. Now, what he has here is his spurs are made from arrows, nothing unusual about that. And his throne sits above, because his sword's in air, these whirling blue clouds, and here are the tablets of the law around there. And these peach trees, I assume, look at the blossoms, signal the coming of spring. Now, Gemini and Taurus are going to be important to you at this time, I think. This is a time when you're going to be very goal-oriented, ambitious. You'll have very flexible intellectual powers, and you might find that you are very passionate in your personal life. I think what's coming in here. You see, his strong intellectual determination is unified with a deep emotional perceptiveness, and only goals which are emotionally charged can fire up such passion. He, like you, will have body, intellect, and spirit all in harmony, and you'll be flying along without anything there to hold you back. You'll be active, clever, skillful, quite fierce, courageous. Just make sure that you think about things before you act. He is the Lord of wind and breezes, and can be something like a wind storm, a tornado. So don't get caught up in things without working out all the angles first. But you are in a good position now to forge plans and to set goals and bring them to fruition. This is something of a restless period for you, where you're transitioning and trying to get somewhere else, either in everyday life or within yourself. But it's definitely a time to listen to your head rather than your heart. There's a restlessness in all the aspects of your life. So do you know your goal? Can you write it down in one sentence? And what are the steps to get to it? Small, measurable, achievable. And what happens when you achieve it? And imagine how you will best be able to enjoy your success. And say to yourself, I know my goal and I know what I am working towards. Each goal is just a milestone on the way to my ultimate destination. And then finally, and quickly, sadly, we're going to have to deal with the Empress here, who is, for me anyway, the daughter of the mighty ones. She is here. Now look through here. She is showing through this clear blue sky that's there for you. That's what's coming up for you now. This is a time for you of... Now this has a lot of Venus around it, so it's ideal for you, this card. It's beauty, love, parenthood, a lot of femininity around it as well. There's a wisdom here and a connection between spirit and matter, and a great degree of inner and outer wealth. I think you've got the ability now to start to fulfill your potential. And I'm getting the feeling of success to do with matters related to your work. Be aware of falling pregnant if you don't want to do that, but you will hear of a pregnancy, I think. And you are now going to be in touch with the beauty in your life. You may well be exploring the relationship with your mother, or acting as a maternal or a paternal figure, because you've got this King of Swords sitting on the top of it. So you could be a mentor to someone. You'll be nurturing others and yourself. Do you know that the beauty that you see in others, which attracts you to them, is a beauty that you carry within yourself? And you are in the process of unfolding and evolving your femininity. Now, this might be the right time to work through and clarify any unresolved mother conflicts. Say this to yourself: I give and receive wisely. I realize that the capacity to receive is equally as important as the capacity to give. Fantastic. I really must say that that was a very interesting set of information provided by the cards for you this month, don't you think? And doesn't it look like it's going to be a fantastic month for you? And you deserve it, I think, don't you? Now, do me the favor, would you? If you did like the video, please press the like button on your way out. It helps the YouTube computer thing promote the channel, and that's the only favour I ever ask of you. So thanks if you do that, and I'll see you again next month. Now, but remember this though, until I do that you are a legend, and I do look forward to seeing you again next month. And until then, it's bye for now.